Hello and welcome to another edition of TVS Correspondent with me, Radzi Ahmad, the show where we discuss current issues and goings on in the United States of America. And with me right now is our correspondent, Alfian Zaini, who is now in Washington, D.C., as he'll be bringing us the latest updates. Alfian, how are you?
We're doing fantastic. How are you yourself?
I'm doing great. Well, let's jump right into the first topic on the agenda today, and that is President Joe Biden's recognition of the Armenian massacre as a genocide, which he announced last week. On Saturday, April 24, Biden said, quote, 1.5 million Armenians were deported, massacred, or marched to their deaths in a campaign of extermination. The American people honor all those Armenians who perished in the genocide, end quote. Biden's designation of the event as a genocide signals the president's desire to prioritize human rights, despite potential fallout in the U.S. relationship with Turkey. Now, Turkey, a long-standing U.S. ally, has vehemently opposed this decision. Biden's statement appears likely to shake up diplomacy for powers active in the region, including Russia and China. But Alfian, before we get into that, could you shed some light on the history of the Armenian massacre?
Of course, Razi. During World War One, the Germany-aligned Ottoman government, which is the predecessor of modern-day Turkey, accused the Armenians of treachery after surviving or after suffering a heavy defeat at the hands of Russian forces. On April 24th, 1915, Ottoman authorities arrested several hundred Armenian leaders and intellectuals, an event seen by many as the beginning of the massacre. 1.5 million Armenians were killed by soldiers and police or died of starvation and exhaustion in long, cruel marches to concentration camps in what is now northern Syria and Iraq. About 500,000 Armenians survived, and many eventually immigrated to Russia, the US, and elsewhere.
Did Turkey actually recognize these atrocities as genocide?
No, Turkey has refused to acknowledge the death as a systematic genocide of a specific ethnic group, arguing there were victims on both sides as a result of fighting between Turks and Armenians, and the killings would not meet the UN definition of genocide. Authors and journalists in Turkey who use the term genocide have been prosecuted for insulting Turkishness. And although Turkish acknowledges the tragic experience of Armenians, it maintains the number of those who died is inflated and denies the characterization of the events as genocide.
Well, President Biden's recognition of the Armenian genocide certainly wouldn't sit well with the Turkish government, potentially souring US-Turkey relations.
Certainly, Turkey's foreign ministry quickly denounced Biden's statement, saying that it doesn't have a scholarly or legal basis. It said, quote, "We reject and denounce in the strongest terms of the statement. The US president's statement will not yield any results other than polarizing the nations and hindering peace and stability in our region," end quote.
Well, with Turkey denouncing President Biden's statement, does Biden have any intention to escalate, say by imposing sanctions on Turkey and such?
Not really. It seems unlikely that the US will take overtly hostile action such as sanctions, as the massacre took place more than a century ago.
Well, if he has no intention of following through on his recognition, then what do you think drove President Biden to make the decision to release the statement, seeing as it could likely put tension on relations with Turkey?
Well, a key factor in Biden's decision to release the statement was a push by members of his administration to place greater emphasis on human rights in US foreign policy. Sona Chagapte, the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, said officials in the Defense Department actually sought to dissuade Biden from making the statement in view of U.S. strategic relations with Turkey. But Sona believes their influence has waned. President Biden has been pushing for human rights as a pillar for his foreign policy. Yes.
Well, this certainly marks a shift in the trajectory of US foreign policy because in February, US intelligence officials concluded that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. President Biden has also decided to resume funding for the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees, which Israel strongly opposes and which has strained US-Israel relations.
Yes, Radzi, these reports and the statement on the Armenian massacre shows the growing influence of liberals in President Biden's Democratic Party, who are strongly advocating for focus on human rights. The increased distance between the US and its traditional allies in the Middle East also highlights the decline of US involvement in Middle East affairs.
Final question. What are the potential implications of President Biden's foreign policy decisions on the geopolitical landscape of Turkey and the Middle East?
The US recognition of the Armenian genocide may push Turkey into Russia's arms. Turkey bought Russian-made S-400 surface-to-air missiles in 2019 and is proceeding to have additional purchases. Washington is strongly opposed to Turkey's moves to strengthen military cooperation with Russia, which NATO treats as a potential adversary. If Turkey completes deployment of the missiles, further sanction against it may follow. And in March, Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi toured 6 Middle Eastern countries, including Turkey and Saudi Arabia, demonstrating Beijing's desire to deepen its ties within the region. China appears interested in taking advantage of the US pullback from the Middle East.
Well, we'll see how things develop when President Joe Biden and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan meet for the first time in a NATO meeting in Brussels in June. And we'll be bringing you the updates on that right here on TVS. Well, we'll be right back on TVS Correspondent after a short while. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back on TVS Correspondent with me, Radzi Ahmad, and our US correspondent in Washington, D.C., Alfian Zaini. Where we left off, we discussed President Joe Biden's recognition of the Armenian massacre and its implication on US-Turkey relations and the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Now let's move on to something a little more lighthearted. Well, if you've been on the internet at all lately, you might have seen a few posts about a Josh fight on the internet and memes referencing the event. A bunch of dudes named Josh actually took the meme seriously and literally battled it out for the name Josh, with pool noodles, of course. Now, I'm sure some of you viewers are as confused as I am. So, Alfian, could you explain to us what the Josh fight actually was and why it went down?
So to give you the context you need, we got to go back in time exactly a year ago when a guy named Josh Swain created a Facebook group chat with a heap of other guys named Josh in it. Swain sent all the Josh's instructions and coordinates to a fight on the 24th of April 2021 at a random location near the Lincoln Airport in Nebraska. Clearly, even Swain meant the message as a joke. However, as it turns out, some of the members of the group chat decided to push on with the plans, and the real event actually ended up taking place over the weekend at Air Park in Lincoln. Swain explained that he never expected anyone to take the joke seriously, let alone remember it a year down the track.
Yeah, well, we do love the power of the internet. What actually happened at the Josh fight?
Pictures and videos of the event show that hundreds of Joshes came from all over to fight each other using pool noodles. And not only was the fighting really wholesome, but many participants came dressed as popular heroes like Luke Skywalker and Spider-Man. After many pool noodle swings and Joshes flung to the ground, the youngest Josh, also known as Josh Vincent Jr., was named the ultimate Josh and crowned the winner of the event with a Burger King crown and boxing belt.
That's a really heartwarming tale, especially during this trying time, the world facing the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yep, definitely. If that isn't heartwarming enough for you, the fight also managed to raise over 11,000 US dollars for the Lincoln Children's Hospital and Medical Center, where the youngest Josh had received treatment when he was just 2 years old. On top of the money raised, attendees of the fight also donated 140 kilograms of food to the Lincoln Food Bank. Yes.
That's really great to hear. What's happened since the fight?
While the event is over for 2021, it's not yet clear if a rematch will occur in 2022 or the years to come. But I would tune in if it did. The cherry on the top of the event is that the location that the Joshes fought at now has now officially been named as the legendary Josh Battlefield on Google Maps. In case you missed it, you can still find loads of photos and videos of the battle all over the internet.
Well, if any of you viewers out there are named Josh and you couldn't make it this year, I guess it's time to start training for next year. Well, that's all the time we have for today. As always, Alfian, thanks for joining us and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. Stay tuned next week for TVS Correspondent with me, Radzi Ahmad and Alfian Zaini. We'll see you again.